sky was our limit. We said, okay, we have all these rights to exploit. How can we do it? What is the best way to do it? So we were able to go and look at, what is the best practice in various sports around. What do we like? What don't we like? We're able to have something, to build something bespoke, which should be, forward thinking, agile, look at all the new consumer trends. So not something that you have in many other sports, even the bigger sports, where your contracts are 4 years old, 5 years old, they have been renewed, and you're just dragging this thing from the past. Here we could be totally clean, obviously also taking full benefit from the digital transformation, which is happening, and that was enhanced through COVID. COVID, I think, has been a big learning for everybody. And definitely this has confirmed that we have switched to the digital age. So we're also able to put digital at the core, the center of our strategy, and obviously to do all the learnings. And what we can see how, COVID has only been on, only unfortunately for 6 months, but it feels it's been years. It feels that life before COVID was years ago, and we know that life after COVID will be totally different, and it will have also important changes in this industry that we need to look at. Then obviously, if you're fully autonomous and independent like that, you're much more attractive for potential investors. So we don't need to rely on funds from the governing body and take money away from development. We can basically, through our own business plan, our own strategy, attract investment, which we've did actually, and you get private investors on board, which allow you to fund basically all the things you need to do, again, to support your new strategy and being able to implement it. And last but not least, the innovation, because a lot of sport have got some kind of autonomy. A lot of sport have tried to put the execution and the management and the commercialization of their rights under a different roof. But, if you push the politicians by the door, they always find a way to come back through the window, as we know. But here, with WTT, I think for the time being, and I had my doubts, to be honest, and I was very open with Matt and Steve about that. But for the time being, they've managed the relationship superbly. We have the full backing from the ITTF Executive Committee. We have the full backing of the table tennis family to be able to do something which, if we're successful, and there's no reason, we have no time for failure, so we will be successful, will certainly be something which could be a model. I'm not trying to be arrogant here at all, but that would be the benchmark for how mid-sized sport can actually revamp and rethink the way they operate there and they manage their sport. We will never be football. And as you know, I'm coming from football Olympics, the big events, but we have a fair chance to be a very respectable and reasonable number 2 somewhere down the line, hopefully in our lifetime. So in a nutshell, that's what I decided to come and help the guys. And to this date, I haven't regretted it 1 minute. It's been fun. It's been exciting. It's been sometimes challenging, but there's a great team. It's also good to see that in the sports governing body, when you can find small unit, to also everybody very dedicated to push the game. There's no politics so far. Unfortunately, politics comes with money, as we all know, so we'll have to see how it goes. But I think when the leadership of Matt and Steve, we're in good hands. So that's the answer in a nutshell, Eric. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Philippe. And I like what you said. You don't have to always look at football, because there's a lot of inspiration among other sports, and you can pick and choose from the sporting industry, from other family members, and make it work with whatever you need. So congratulations on where you guys are already. Stephen, the events world, that's your domain. So you are the event strategy director. It's a very, very condensed schedule already. You're competing with lots of different sports. And obviously now COVID is probably going to throw you a little curveball, because suddenly the events that were planned have to be condensed even more into a shorter framework. Tell us, what is different with the current WTT events strategy and structure, and how are you going to be able to make more noise to make sure that people take notice of what you guys are trying to do?
Thanks, Eric, and good afternoon to everyone that's joined us here on the panel today. Just to quickly give a bit of background for myself so people know where I'm coming from. The last 15 years working in professional tennis, 7 years with the ATP and PR and marketing before moving to the China Open in Beijing as a consultant, the largest tennis tournament in Asia. And then the last 5 years, I've been operating WTA tournaments in Tianjin and Taipei, as well as being a member of the WTA Tournament Council. So straddled a little bit of everything inside the sports management world in tennis, and jumped over to WTT in March this year. thanks to the welcome from Matt and Steve, to have the remit of creating a brand new global professional series. I was lucky enough to go through this with the ATP when they rebranded the tour back in 2008, 2009 into their current 250, 500, 1000 model, and was able to take a look at how that was done and use the experience that I've had of traveling to probably over 200, 250 tennis events around the world in the last 15 years, plus obviously the events that I've run myself, to be able to work with these guys and create something exciting and refresh and dynamic for 2021. So obviously starting 6 months ago, we mapped out a strategy that involved hosting 34 events in 2021 across our new structure, which features 5 different event tiers. So obviously our Grand Smash events, which are designed to be our pillars of the sport, 10-day events that are very much like a table tennis festival, into our unique champions events, which are one table singles only events, before moving into our contender series, which is split into 2 levels and much more about creating the opportunity for players to play and compete and earn rankings points and show their talents against the top superstars of the sport. And then we culminate with our season-ending WTT Cup finals. So a model that will enable us to begin to start telling the story of the sport. And I think that is what table tennis, through its previous sort of institutional model, was unable to do. And so for me, in my previous role with the ATP and through all of my tennis time, I was very much encouraged to work around how we tell the story of the sport. And I think we've seen sports change, that they're no longer primarily about what happens on the field of battle or what happens on the field of play. They're very much now a sportainment product, and being able to showcase to fans in different market segments exactly what it is that appeals to them. So whether it's the people that want to come and watch a little bit of table tennis and then, you know, have a drink in the lounge, or enjoy the VIP experience, or enjoy other parts of the fan engagement offering, these are parts of what we'll be taking into the 2021 event experience. So obviously we had that strategy of mapping out 34 events to start in January next year. But the COVID-19 situation has, of course, required us to take a step back and think, you know, securely and safely about how we launch in 2021, given that we do have this opportunity that Philippe mentioned before of the clean commercial slate and the clean event hosting slate. So we split the season up into 2 parts, one pre-Olympics and one post-Olympics, with the idea of playing in hubs, which I think gives us the opportunity now to be proactive and focus on making sure that we get these events up and running and showcase to the world exactly what we're going to be presenting in 2021, and which we're also excited to be doing in Macau later this year as a teaser or a showcase of what WTT will be. We've also engaged a number of partners that are helping us work on exactly how or what WTT will look like and exactly what will appeal to the different segments of table tennis. And I think what is most exciting for us, of course, is the fact that everyone has played table tennis at some stage. I know as an Australian, it's something you very much do around the Christmas or holidays. Everyone, or nearly everyone, has a table or table tennis bat and balls, and you know, you pick up and play. But for me, as a lover of sport, I never really understood why there was a disconnect from playing as a kid and what the WTT or table tennis meant at the professional level. So obviously this opportunity with the new event structure will create that whole of pathway. So how you progress from a kid picking up a bat at say 10 years old, and how you can progress through to become number one, and what the fans and the broadcasters and sponsors can also experience as part of that new structure. So it's a really exciting time for us.
Great, Stephen, thank you very much. And let me, Paul, you just mentioned something earlier a little bit about the image. I'm just going to launch the first poll that we have here. It's just a general feedback on the image of table tennis while we're just going ahead with our discussions. Yesterday there were breaking news, and I mean, any one of you can probably answer on this one. I think that Durban, South Africa has won the rights of hosting the World Table Tennis Championships outbidding Germany, a traditional stronghold of table tennis. And I think it would be great that we just use this as a starting point, looking at how the bidding process is conducted, but also how you see that world table tennis is expanding and becoming really a global product. I don't know if Matt or Philippe want to get started here.
I can get started, and then Stephen can talk in a bit more detail about the actual WTT bidding. So for us, we're very excited about Durban and South Africa. WTT and of course ITTF are very dedicated to growing the global sport of table tennis. So we're very big in East Asia, China, Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, Taipei, and some pockets of Europe. But it's really our mandate to grow table tennis throughout the world. And our World Championships is one of the products that can assist us to be doing that and leaving legacies in countries. So we're excited that our friends in South Africa have won the bid. We're excited to bring our World Championships to Africa for the first time since 1939. So it's going to be really great. So I think this is the start of a complete global legacy for WTT and ITTF, and WTT will also be dedicated to be bringing more and more events to key developing markets and not just be sitting on our laurels and having events in our top market. So Stephen can discuss a little bit more about the WTT bidding process and how more and more cities and hosts can get involved.
Thanks, Matt. So obviously, when we launched the WTT bidding process at the start of or in April this year, we were actually really excited to see the level of interest from the corporate and private sector, which is something that table tennis hadn't done previously. So in the old ITTF model, the events were hosted and run by national associations who had the option to bring in corporate support to help them run these events. But as part of the new professionalism of table tennis, we opened up this bidding process to private enterprise. So speaking directly with governments, host cities, host countries, and also event management organizations and sports promoters, which is something that I think has propelled other sports to success. But as Philippe and Matt have mentioned previously, of course, with WTT owning all of its inventory or owning its event licenses and taking on a process that's very similar to what happens with other sports, where the ITTF remains control of the rules and regulations and governance of the sport, but has a private arm that runs the event structure for the players and sponsors to be involved in. So we ran that event bidding process from April. We had a pleasing response. There was quite a significant number of applications come in, and most pleasingly from applications from all around the world, which shows that we have the excitement and backing of the table tennis family and of the private sector to expand WTT away from its two traditional markets of Asia and Europe. So with that process of sort of taking place and then COVID-19 hitting, we hit pause, and we will start with 3 playing hubs in 2021 prior to the Olympics, one in the Middle East, one in China, and then one in Europe, before returning to a more modified playing calendar, COVID dependent, following the Olympic Games. And so the bidding process now restarts, whereby we're looking for host cities, national associations, government organizations, private promoters, entrepreneurs who want to come in and host events. And this involves obviously the paying of a hosting fee. So with that hosting fee, then WTT puts all of that revenue into a central budget and takes on some of the event delivery. So it's a much more collaborative model, with WTT responsible for the payment of event prize money, doing TV production, having brought on IMG as our new strategic partner to take care of production, as well as some of the other elements around the event, and then working with the event partner or the local organizing committee to help deliver the event from a operational capacity. So each of the different event tiers has various sponsorship or has hosting fee commitments attached to it. And then of course we want to be able to work with these partners long term. So previously WTT or ITTF sort of renewed its agreements with each of its hosts on a year-by-year basis, which didn't give us the opportunity to clearly communicate to the sporting world exactly what our events are and where they're going to be. So as part of this process, we have minimum hosting commitments as well as hosting fees, which will give us that ability to then go into the playing market and allow players to schedule their calendars on a regular and annual basis and forward plan, and also for us to have those conversations with broadcasters and sponsors about where our events are going to be at what time of the year, which allows us to then also have better conversations with those partners. So that is the bidding process. We have the bidding open now for the hubs in the Middle East and Europe for 2021, and also for those that want to host events in the second part of 2021, or also to join WTT from 2022.
Great. So the traditional table tennis is played in Asia and Europe, but what are the other growth markets, especially in the terms of commercial revenues for table tennis? I mean, it looks like that, you know, there are no borders anymore, but are there certain areas and markets you're focusing on where you feel like that commercial partners could be brought on board? And again,
obviously
with Philippe or Stephen, anyone,
yep.
Yeah?
I mean, I can talk from the event perspective. I think if you look at what other sports are doing around the way they operate and schedule their tours and events, you want to be in markets that are going to contribute across all of the playing or all of the 360-degree view of the sport. So for us, it's important that we have events in North and South America. We have obviously Brazil as with a couple of players inside the top 20. That's important for us. We have the need to grow across the Oceania region, and of course, as Matt referred to before, having the World Table Tennis Championships in Durban in 2023. We hope that also is a springboard for us to have conversations with African nations about hosting WTT events there as well. So that's on the event side, and I'm happy for Philippe to jump in on the commercial.
Your microphone, Philippe. Let me just unmute you.
As you said on your intro, Eric, and I was confirmed by the poll you had actually. The good news is that everybody knows table tennis, so everybody knows the sport. And the second good news is that everybody likes it, and I think it was reflected in the poll. Again, everybody said it's a nice thing to do as a family. So I think we start from a right foot. You know, people know the sport and people like the sport. However, we need to be able to convince and to explain to people that what is known in Asia, where we are in Eastern Asia, that is a highly competitive, highly skilled, highly intense sport, is also understood by other parts of the world. So we're not looking for a particular part of a particular territory. Basically, we want to have a worldwide footprint. Matt mentioned earlier on, we have 226 associations, so the game is played all over the world. It's just that we have a different type. So our footprint is worldwide, but is just played at a different level. So like any other sport, you know, we have to be in a position to distribute our content and make sure that we have to have the sport seen, because in many regions of the world, we don't have enough coverage. People have got to see the sport, because when you can attend and see it live, this is where you get the kids who wants to go and pick up a bat and play. So that's what Stephen said about all the tournaments, about this tour. Where we'll start going to 30 odd countries in the world to start with, but we have to widen it. And then you have to go in places where honestly there's also a market. So it's always the same place. You know, if you went to North and South America, when you go to South America, people tend to go to Brazil because this is where the biggest market are. Africa, people tend to focus on South Africa and then a bit of the northern part of Africa and Eastern Africa or Nigeria, because this is where the people are and the market is. India is definitely a place where we want to go. I mean, there's an history of the game being played here. They also used to see badminton and squash, all the tennis racket sports. Sorry. So this is definitely a place we want to be. So at the end of the day, we want to be everywhere in a kind of an opportunistic way, knowing that we want to consolidate a stronghold in the part of the world where we are already present and strong and number one and number two. whilst developing ourselves in the parts of the world where we're not so strong for the time being.
Great. There's 2 follow-up questions for me, but they're going into different directions. So let's start with the first one. Where do you see your competitive mix? Which sports do you compare yourself with, and which sports are you trying to stay away from a little bit, or you take inspiration from?
I can take that one. I think it's a tricky question, because in the modern day of entertainment, it's not just sports that we're all competing with. We're all trying to position ourselves as an entertainment product, and that's, you're competing now with esports, other sports, music, concerts, TV, Netflix, everything for people's eyeballs. But so you really have to differentiate yourself and create a USP where the fans are willing to turn on their TV and watch table tennis, or come to the OTT and watch table tennis, or give up their hard-earned cash to come to one of our events. So we're not really so concerned about any specific other sports. There are obviously some sports with some key demographics as us, but we are really focusing on how we can make us the best sport and the best product that we can to be appealing to the masses. Other sports that we have looked at, a little inspiration, I think it's, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that we have taken some inspiration from tennis in our new event strategy and calendar. But then that's more just the style of events. But if we're looking at the entertainment aspect of the event, I think we have gone a different direction to tennis. We are looking more the UFC, the one table, the intense show, a little bit of the rock concert vibe from darts, and just a festival of you see your tennis grand slams of what we're looking for our grand smashes. So answer to your question, we're really cherry picking a lot of different sports to look at different aspects that they're doing well, not just from the event aspect, from also the digital commercial data aspect about how sports are really positioning themselves, but also looking at a lot of other entertainment products to see where we can really be adding value and nailing that key demographic that we're looking at, that we want to be coming and moving over and watching professional table tennis and consuming professional table tennis.
What needs to change? What's the biggest thing that needs to change in the whole event structure? Is it the way the pathway is created? Is it the prize money? Is it the ranking systems, how points are being allocated and then players can move through the rankings? What's the one thing that would help this whole process of also for you to make it an attractive proposition, and then obviously at the end of the day trying to bring in commercial partners and commercial revenues?
I think what we've seen in the old ITTF model is that you can have 300, 400 players play an event where only the top 14 or 15 players in the rankings or who have entered that event are guaranteed to play in the main draw. And then they're joined by 16 players that come from qualifying. So that as a product itself, it doesn't lend itself to broadcast. It doesn't lend itself to the fan experience on site. It doesn't. It is not commercially attractive for sponsors either. So as part of this restructure that we're doing, we're tightening the way that we have each our event tiers. So more players automatically playing in the main draw, tightening the qualifying sizes of draws. We're looking at working on a proposal now that will overhaul the ranking system for 2021. We've looked at the youth structure and how we can create that whole of sport pathway, and we'll be looking to release that to the table tennis family in the coming week or so that we are being able to build that better quality product. So and that flows on from what Matt was talking about before, is that we want fans to arrive at the airport or the train station and then be consumed by what WTT is. So every single consumer or fan touch point of how they are walking to the venue, what they experience at all of the key moments during the day to the moment they get back home. And then of course, how we follow that up around our digital and data strategies. That's the direction that we're taking WTT in. So with it, it's not looking at one sort of piece in isolation here. It's the whole 360-degree view. And if we firstly improve the product, then we'll be able to increase our commercial appeal our broadcast appeal, and also the opportunity for hosts to come on board and be part of WTT.
Great. Matt, anything to add, or Philippe? You mentioned data earlier. Is there a certain data strategy that you are looking at, and within your whole digital transformation process, where are you? Because I mean, it's obviously key that you are able to collect data, analyze data, communicate with your audiences, and so on and so on. What has been done on the back end to prepare yourself prior to the launch of WTT, so that you're there and that you're ready in that regard as well?
Sorry, I'll take that one. I was trying to answer your previous question, but my mic was mute. I just wanted to to piggyback on what Matt said, which was 100% correct. We're not looking at anybody in particular. You know, we don't compete with any sport in particular. I think we are in entertainment, and at the end of the day, we're just competing for attention and time and span of attention from people. People, at the end of the day, they've got 24 hours a day, and you need to work a bit, sleep a bit, see your family a bit. So you're being exposed to whatever, 250 messages an hour, commercial messages. So why would people come to us? And I think this is what is driving our thing. So yes, we looked at other sport, as Matt said. We looked at tennis, we looked at golf, we looked at all the sports who have a yearly tour, Formula One. We looked at, you know, the good learnings from sport, going from, you know, obviously football, Olympics, where I'm going from, and then we tried to build something would be different, will attract actually the viewers, because this is what, at the end of the day, this is entertainment, and we're competing for time, for quality time and time of mind with people. Then to go back to your question, definitely digitalization is a way for us to go and target people. Now, we're not football, we're not boasting to have 10, 15, 20 million, 30 million followers. But what we want to do is whatever single-digit million fans we have and followers, we want to know every single of them. Because today, nobody in football can tell you who they are and who their fans are. So they've got these big numbers, but they cannot tell you who these people are. So we really want to be able to go and talk to these people. So we want to have this digital approach, and which is a way also for us to engage with fans. As Stephen said, we want, when people come to our event, that they feel being part of the family, and the way obviously to be in constant contact with them will be through their mobile phone and all the various services and activities we can offer digitally, from content, from information, for all the kind of thing they want. So we are working. I think we've signed, and we've announced we've signed with an American-based company called Pumpjack, which is helping us to develop that data strategy and management through our platforms. And we have it's work in progress. And we want basically to be ready to get with our platforms when our season starts, which would be end of February, early March next year.
Great. So on with IMG being on board, being the production house for you for global TV, are there certain innovations or certain special programming you're looking at made for TV, made for mobile, so on and so on? Is there what?
Definitely. I think one of the first things we decided, and when we looked at the situation with Matt, was to say that we have to own our images. We cannot be dependent from whatever quality of broadcast we have, and we have also to control our programming. So we will control our production ourselves with IMG Production, as you said. We've been doing many tests of testing new cameras, new way of shooting, new angles. We will bring obviously a technological dimension, because table tennis is a very technical sport, you know, from the speed of the player, the speed of the ball, the spin, everything you have that you can capture both with high definition cameras or with special technological recording. That will allow us to give much more stat to our fans. As Stephen mentioned, also we want to have a different experience. You know, it's not going to be a gym room where you've got 50 tables and people play from 8 in the morning to 8 in the evening. We want to have a much more bespoke experience. We want people to be able to feel welcome, to have the hospitality. You have this one table playing at dark with the light and the whole thing. So we have to build the show. It's not only 2 hours of pure table tennis. We want people to come for the experience. And likewise, through our broadcasters, we want to give them not only the live content with all the bells and whistles of the state-of-the-art production, but also programming based on the archives, based on the countries, based on the players, to be able to give the viewers a full experience of what is table tennis and what is the history of the sport. Matt, if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think you covered it. It's for TV. It's really providing the best possible experience for our fans. In the past ITTF, we used the host broadcaster system. So sometimes the level of broadcast would be amazing. Sometimes it would be quite average. So we believe having this in-house will have a much more consistent TV product. Also allows us to tell the story much more, because now we'll have the same crew going to our 34 events around the world. Then they can be really following the players, know the players' reaction, know when to be having slow-mos in certain elements, etc., etc. It also allows us to tell the story of what is professional table tennis. Professional table tennis is much different and much more complex than what you would play in your garage, with spin and speed and placement and reaction time, everything like that, which is not so easy to be just portraying with TV cameras. You need graphics, you need motion sensors, you need the Hawkeye type technology to be telling that story. So we're excited to be showing a lot more innovations to our fans, and we believe it's going to significantly increase our broadcast value as well.
Yeah, great. I mean, one of the reasons, what you mentioned in the beginning of bringing WTT to life is to generate commercial revenues and to allow players to earn more money. Correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the top players might not be full-time professionals. They have to make a living somewhere else because table tennis necessarily does not provide that. In our pre-discussions, you mentioned something about a partnership in China that helps the grassroots program. But how does that support not only the development, but also the missions of WTT of making the sport more attractive and bringing in more commercial revenues?
Yeah, so I think that our top players, let's say top 50, top 100, top even 150, that would be full-time table tennis professionals, but they're not earning their full-time living from the ITTF prize money. So they're having to play professionally in clubs and other table tennis commitments. So it's WTT's mission to really increase the prize money significantly. So a player at the start of the year knows that if they play in their 10, 15, 20 world table tennis events, even if they get knocked out the first round every time, they're going to earn a substantial living, and they feel quite secure to be dedicating their full-time job to world table tennis events. In terms of our partnership now in China, we now have a commercial partner that has invested into WTT, and a part of that is to be giving quite a significant amount of money to training for international players. So this means that WTT can be handpicking certain players from certain markets that we think is going to be providing us value, putting them into the Chinese system, and then assisting them to be a much better player and competing on the global stage. So at the moment, China, it's no messing around, but they dominate table tennis, and that's not great for our commercial value in our sport when one country is winning all the time. And then China also understands that. For even them in their own market, it's not so interesting for the Chinese fans if they turn on CCTV and they know for sure a Chinese player is going to win. You need that drama, you need that excitement, you need different players competing for those gold medals and the top titles in the sport. So this is the beauty of WTT, is now we can be assisting more and more countries and more players to get to that high level, to be competing for the top titles, which we know and we honestly believe will be increasing the commercial value significantly when you turn on your TV and you don't know what country is going to win.
Great. No, so bringing in young players and exciting players is great. It brings me to obviously the one white elephant that we've always talked about in these SPIA webinars, esports. Is there a certain esports strategy? What does esports play? What's the role that esports will play for the development of WTT?
Sport definitely is something important, and actually similarly that I think table tennis is the biggest sports federation in the world with 220 members. You remember that the first ever video game was Pong, which was actually a table tennis game. You know, you're old enough, Eric, to remember we used to play these two little Pongs playing the whole thing. So we have a long history with video games. Joke apart, this is definitely something we are looking at. We're in the process of assessing which route we want to go. There's one way, because of the technicity and high speed of the game. We could go the hyper realistic route, which is what now the EA and Konami have done with a FIFA game and with football. You've got the fantasy approach, more like the Nintendo style of things. Definitely, we want to be on mobile, especially in Asia. We have to be present on mobile and to play to attract all the young players you have. So this is in the making. This is something we're looking at. We're having various conversations. We may decide to go on both. We'll have to see whether we could be actually in both sphere, both on the hyper realistic or the fantasy game. But definitely we will be on the mobile. So this is something we're working on. To be honest, for the time being, as you heard, we're starting everything from scratch, from organizing a tour to producing our content, to finding distribution, to working on a digital strategy, because obviously we want to have a worldwide footprint, and where we cannot find proper coverage and distribution. The beauty of digitalization is that we can go through an OTT platform or find some way to stream our content. So this is keeping us fairly busy, not mentioning COVID, which is slowing down and changed the plans a million times. So this is what we're focusing on for the start and launch of the competition in few months' time. But definitely the e-gaming is there, and we can very well see having some competitive gaming competition with video games pretty soon.
Great. Steven, you have this great virtual background there. It's a very dominant, prominent logo. Can you tell us a little bit about what's behind it, maybe what the colors stand for, and what this represents? It's definitely nice that there's a revamp of seeing some of the traditional federation logos that are still floating around and having something like this popping up. So it's very recognizable.
I can. The logo sort of started before I came into WTT, but obviously we created a commission with Super Union, a Singapore-based design agency, to refresh and revitalize the table tennis brand. So obviously the concept of World Table Tennis was created, and you can see through the logo that we have the two T's, which represent obviously table tennis, coming together to form a W. So from there, we were then able to use the symmetry of all of the edges and the straight lines to then reflect across that on the table, and how that can then be portrayed into all the digital artwork that we have. And through that partnership with Super Union, we were then able to work out obviously our master color, and then how that translated into the different tier levels. So one of the things that we'll be able to do, or that fans will be able to understand when they're watching WTT across all of the event tiers, is the specific color for each tier. So if you're watching a Grand Smash, you will know just by looking at the field of play, the markings of the field of play and the table, that's a Grand Smash event, and so on and so forth through each of the additional tables. I don't know if Matt wants to jump in and give a bit more about the branding, because as I said, it was after I started.
The basic brief to our design agency is we want something new, fresh, dynamic, and bold. Something that you can see and it's like, okay, that's not an international federation. This is a commercial marketing entity, and this is what they came up with, and we love it.
Great. No, fantastic. Clear, straight to the point. Super. You mentioned, I just overheard from Steven talking about the little surfaces, and with your background in tennis, the tennis has played around with different colors on, from the traditional green and the red clay, it became purple, and, we used to, with different colors to also attract and make it a more TV product. Are there certain innovations that you're planning or that are going to be going on around the sport of table tennis at the moment? Is there something that's happening in terms of in terms of the TV product, in terms of advertising, in terms of equipment? Is there something dramatically changing or coming up for us to be on the to look out for?
So we obviously, as we've mentioned previously through some of the points, is that need to present the sport in a fresh and new dynamic way. And we obviously want the table to be the core of the product and the focus of our product, but we don't want to present table tennis in the old style that it's been watched before. So we've been looking at how we can change the camera one position away from the traditional back of the player, so that we're getting either a more side on or angled shot. So we're able to see that speed and the emotion and the intensity on the players' faces, the reflexes, the distance that the ball is being hit. So being able to showcase how the players, how far they are away from the table, and how we can incorporate some technology into how that's presented, you know, the distance they cover around the field of play. But I think the most exciting part for us, and we'll be sort of teasing it out in the event in Macau, is a change to the way that the actual field of play is presented. So moving away from that traditional four-sided space to something that reflects our sort of cultural history and our traditions, but presents the event in a more dynamic way. And then from that, being able to introduce all the other sort of run of show elements that we can do from that new field of play.
Great. Anything? No. Okay. So we are having a couple questions here that are coming up. So I want to, Julian, good to have you here. We're definitely going to address your question. Just give us a few minutes. I wanted to throw out the last poll that we have, and the last poll comes then also with the with one of the key questions now. So what we want to find out is if you have ever considered actually sponsoring table tennis or to pitch table tennis to sponsor to one of your clients. And that leads me into the question, why is the time right now to consider sponsoring table tennis or to getting involved in table tennis? So if I make a pitch, probably Philippe, you're going to be the one doing it. If you're making a commercial pitch at the moment, why do you think the time is right to get involved with table tennis and with world table tennis in general?
I think table tennis will be an interesting proposition, just because, first of all, as Steven described, it will be a totally revamp sport and entertainment activity, and the digital dimension will bring with this, again, deep understanding and knowledge and access to all the clients will make it interesting. I think post-COVID, companies will be much more difficult and picky and choosy just for budget reason, and they will want to have value for money, and they don't want something that is gonna shoot wide and not knowing who they're reaching or something. They would want to know, whatever the sport they go on board, they would want to know who they can reach and what they can reach, and to make sure these are the target people they want to have. And this is something we'll be able to deliver. So that combined with a highly exciting, entertaining event with a exciting sport happening in some friendly events, to be able to schmooze and host your partners and clients, in combined with a worldwide distribution, allowing also, you know, content to be pushed on various social media and digital platforms to reach also the younger generation. I think it's a good combination, and this is something which should still be, you know, reasonably priced compared to, again, the likes of football or similar sports.
Do you think it's going to be a little bit of a wait and see approach, how this all pans out with your new event structure? Or do you think that that's the discussion that you're having right now, that people are innovative and they're like more like the first movers, and they say, well, you know, with WTT, there's a great opportunity. They have the right partners already on board. Let's get on board right now before the system and this has actually been proven.
It's a good question. I think it'd be a mix of both. You know, some people we've met once with Matt told us about the art of sale, and this is where actually the thing comes. And the question is how much we can convince people to come on board. We have something which we think is extremely attractive, but obviously, you know, the proof is in the eating of the pudding, as one says. So there will be the early adopters. There will be people who will see the vision, will understand. We'll have actually an event taking place in Macau in 2 months' time, which we'll use as a bit of a teaser to show what it could be. And then there will be people who will want to see it and will want to see the WTT Tour 2021 started in order to come on board. And both are fine. This is also one of the points I mentioned earlier on, was one of the beauty of having WTT as a bespoke commercial entity is that we can attract investors. And obviously investors are then, you know, investors are not here to come and help us when everything is fine and we've got an up and running property. Investors are here to help us to invest and develop in what we need to invest to develop the sport, but also to allow us to stick to our strategy, stick to our gun, and maybe if we have a couple of months of waiting time in order to move, then we can keep on carrying running our operations.
Great, thank you. We're about 5 minutes out, and we have 2 or 3 questions popping up in the chat box. Julian Jackson has a 2-parted question here. Said, how are you planning to get interest in markets where you have good players, but they are not traditional table tennis watching nation? And then maybe we can take a look at the second question as well at the same time, and we answer together, which leads to the second part is, what about countries where there's no world-class athletes, but maybe have some history, for instance, like Romania and Sweden? I know it's hard to sell table tennis on media platforms, and it was very hard to get interest from broadcasters. Will it be purely digital play? And if so, what can you do to gain that interest to watch?
I can take that. Hi, Julian, good old friend. So I think this is, again, one of the beauties of WTT is we have all our rights under one roof. So in the past, sure this is coming from when Julian was selling our rights for these TSA days, is that we had agencies just selling our media rights, and then ITTF was doing the event hosting, and then we had other agency doing our sponsorship. So everything was very segmented and nothing really working together in one direction. So, but honestly believe that to develop our media rights, and especially the countries we have top players, and even the countries that we don't have top players, which have some history, like the Swedens and Romanians, is you need events. You need to link into your event strategy and your media strategy. The best way to get interest from local media networks and to really raise your broadcast value is to have an event. Then they can see the events in the country, they can see the interest, it grows, and then you can be selling a 1 to 2 to 3 year deal, global deal with them. So that doesn't, there's no secret recipe for doing this, but I do think having everything under one roof and having your event strategy linked with your media strategy, linking with your sponsorship strategy can really assist you to be growing in different markets around the world.
Great.
And sorry, Eric, if I may add to that, I think if Matt refers to TSS selling the rights, it was many years ago, and we're in the fortunate position today that digitally we don't need to have broadcasters. Obviously, we want to have broadcasters because we want to have a certain amount of eyeballs, but we're also living in a world now, digital world, which is much more fragmented. And to be honest, a lot of people do not watch television anymore. So if we cannot get, let's say, traditional television distribution, we know we'll be able to access the people digitally. We'll be able to access platform, either our own OTT or so partner OTT, that will help us to cover the black territories where we don't have TV. So we will be present everywhere, and we'll be able also to package and push content in a way and form that is more attractive to this type of viewers, because obviously we need to push the content that will interest our fans. And we know we have done intensive research. We're also working with a big branding agency called 160 over 90. We've done all the demographics and typology of who is the target group and which are the groups we want to attract. And we will push basically content which is more attractive to these people. So again, the technology today allows us to push whatever we want, wherever we want in the world. And hopefully then we'll be able to reach all these pockets of table tennis fans that are down there.
Good. So I think that answers the second question that we had in the chat box. What can table tennis learn from the digital world? So to improve the product, I think we've more or less answered this one throughout the segment today. So I would just wanted to see the question from Martin here. He asked, do you think that the new innovations of WTT have an impact on private sponsors for the players, especially for the Asian market?
I can take that one. I think if WTT does well, that means all the players and their sponsors are going to do well, because if we're having better events with more spectators, more interest, more people watching, we're having more TV networks around the world, we're having more people watching our digital networks and coming to our website and coming to our app and talking about WTT, that means more people are going to be seeing the sponsors on the players' shirts. So that means that if they have a good savvy agent that are selling their rights, they're going to have much more much better metrics than to be going to them to negotiate a much higher fee, because more people are going to be seeing the brand.
And just to continue on from Matt's point, one of the strategies that we're working on around the event and marketing side is to implement a couple of marketing programs. One is an icon style program where we'll be able to make or start increasing the profile of the players, because there's no reason why our athletes shouldn't be mentioned in the same conversation as the Roger Federers or the Serena Williams or the Tiger Woods in terms of their reach and their popularity, particularly for our Asian players who obviously have large country bases to be able to lean in on. But we want to be able to get those names across all of the traditional table tennis markets and also those that are lagging behind. And then the second thing we want to do is how we can activate our players on site. So looking at a program where players commit to doing fan engagement and sponsor and media engagements at events every week to be able to build their profile and bring out their personalities and tell the story of the sport, as we said, across everything, across the event space, across the player space, and then what we're doing around the rest of the 360 WTT structure.
Great. Well, we are pretty much, I'm sorry, we have to take a hard break. I promised you guys it's going to be an hour. We are right on the dot. It's been great. We've been able to dive a little bit deeper into WTT. I would like to extend a congratulations. I think you guys are on the right pathway. Let's hope that COVID is not going to throw us another curveball for next year and everybody's plannings. But would like to say thank you to Matt, Stephen, and Philippe. Great to see you here. Fantastic panel today, extremely interesting, and appreciate your time, as well as obviously the audience and our team from One Play Sports that's providing the live stream of these segments. We're back next Wednesday. We're going to make the announcement on the next panel later on today. And but for today, stay safe. Thank you very much, everyone. And hopefully we stay in touch. We see each other soon again. Thank you so much. Take care, Matt, Stephen, and Philip.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.